welcome to the third and final game of the evening. It is Heaven's Vault. Um, what is Heaven's Vault? Well, that's actually a fairly multi-layered question. I'm like, as a game, it is I suppose we could call it an adventure game. Like, but it's not your traditional point and click adventure game, nor is it a modern style walking simulator, although it's probably closer to that than, point and click because
You do
that
walk
means
around.
yeah.
You walk around, you get a lot of dialogue choices and choices where you have a chance to say something to something and either can or cannot.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are the language puzzles, which are kind of the meat of the puzzles, it feels like.
I'm like, kind of. Like,
I mean, puzzles is weird because there is no absolutely correct answer, and the game never actually, 100% confirms whether you're right or wrong. Just some stuff makes more sense one way than another.
That is not true. Like, the game will confirm when you are right and when you are wrong.
Oh, I thought I remembered reading that it wouldn't, and it didn't. It gave me something where it told me like you weren't sure about that, or you think you're probably wrong.
I'm like, no, the game will answer in absolutes if you are right or wrong. In fact, that is one of the. I'd say it's the meta goal because there is a new game plus to this, and what carries over are your translations. It's like, and it's like, this game. I'd say the unique feature of Heaven's Vault is the language. This game comes to us from Inkle. They are kind of the masters of the unconventional adventure game, crafting such previous titles as Around the World in 80 Days. Admittedly, that's one I didn't play too much. But we did feature and review the Steve Jackson Sorcery games that came out some time ago. I have not played anything quite like that, and in the case of Heaven's Vault, I've never played anything quite like this either. It's certainly rhyming with a lot of, modern day adventure titles or adventure adjacent, whether it be like Telltale stuff, The Walking Dead, or Life is Strange, or Firewatch, or Gone Home, and so on and so forth. But the language stuff really gives it its unique flavor, because I don't think I've ever encountered a video game that lays out what translation is.
Yeah, usually when you're playing as an archaeologist or something like that, you're doing the other parts of archaeology.
Right. Or you're not actually doing archaeology at all. It's like, but here, this is actually this is maybe not 1-to-1, because this being a video game, it will give you absolute confirmations on words, where real life is much murkier than this thing, but still it gets the point across of how translations work, especially with ancient pictographic languages.
You kind of have to go on, well, this word is similar to this word, so it's probably related, although you could be wrong. And sometimes words that are related for reasons that make sense to the culture that wrote the things, but don't necessarily immediately make sense to you.
And it goes deeper, because context is actually really important. Like, the item, you find the inscription upon it uh, it helps to think what they might be communicating with that item or religious artifact or place. A good example, like a hammer. It's gotten, like, I found a hammer one. It's got an inscription that translated out to "strike the earth."
Mm-hmm.
That's the that's kind of how you have to think. What does this mean in relation to the thing that it is on or referencing? Because it's not just practical stuff. There's a lot of religiosity and such attached here, like and metaphor. Like they'll refer to farming equipment with life and the stars, water, all that sort of thing. A lot of talks about kings and emperors and gods.
Mm-hmm.
It's like basically what they've created here is their own version of hieroglyphics or something like that.
Although it does seem to be actually a non-pictographic language, but it's similar degree of you don't actually know what's written.
Yeah, it's not 1-to-1, but it works well enough for the game. And it's like along the way you will be developing a vocabulary, word by word, sentence by sentence, until you have many words to work with.
Yeah, with your weird timeline interface thingy, you can one of the things you can sort it by is all of your inscriptions, so you can fiddle around with it through that later on if you're not satisfied with, or you think you came up with a wrong translation for something.
Admittedly, I didn't do that all that often because, well, quite frankly, there are so many translations lying about. Like, anyway, that aside, the other major gameplay component is what we got on screen here, the choices. And this is one of those games where choices matter a lot. In fact, that's part of the replay value. There are things that you can do that can radically alter certain events, certain people. You might not find everything. You won't find everything your first go out.
I didn't do it because I didn't have a whole ton of time to play this, but one of your first assignments is to go to a place, and while you're getting ready to go there, you get a pretty explicit option to, I kind of don't want to go there.
Right.
Go somewhere else instead, and that, I imagine, would at least result in a side trip.
Among other things, like where you go, where you don't go, what you do, like it all has an effect.
How you talk to people and how open you are to, listening to what people say, because, your character is a little bit of a grump, and, like, a lot of a grump, really, but, you still, like, if you are too curt with some people, you might not necessarily get certain things that you can use for translations.
Right. And your character is a girl named Aaliyah. She is an archaeologist and historian, and she is accompanied by, reluctantly by the Robot 6.
She does not like robots that much, and also the robot does not feel it necessary to have a name, but she finds it awkward not to have a name for it.
I'm like, and they have a relationship that's malleable, I say, because you can be friendlier towards the robots, or you can be more antagonistic towards the robots via dialogue choices. You know, it's one of those personalities kind of shaped via what you pick on the screen. Like, though, yeah, Aaliyah's basic personality is one of grumpiness. A lot of grumpiness. Like, though one of the reasons why she resents the robot outside of a general dislike is because the robot isn't hers. She's assigned it. Like the curator or the president of the university assigns these robots not just to aid, but maybe to keep an eye on things.
There is at least the pretense that you're being sent to look for someone, and the robot knows what the person you're sent to look for looks like.
Well, it's not a pretense. Your initial mission is to find a missing roboticist, who's gone off for God knows what reason, and your job is to find him. And that leads into the larger mystery of the Heaven's Vault. You know, what it is, what it isn't, and, you know, it's like having finished the game, I can tell you exactly what Heaven's Vault is, but that would be spoiling a lot. Oh, God. Like, now, in addition to its unique gameplay stylings, it's got a fairly unique graphical style as well. As it's got fully realized 3D environments, but it's got this weird 2D.
Yeah, the art is very
like
picture bookish.
Yeah, it's like,
and let your legs fade out when you're moving.
Yeah, it's like it's almost like you're controlling a ghost. Like you can see it on screen. I'm not sure what to call this. Like, and I'm not exactly sure what the artistic intent was behind this particular graphical styling. I mean,
yeah, you leave after images behind sometimes.
Yeah,
it's interesting, although sometimes it's kind of janky. I mean, it looks nice, but
it looks nice.
It's distracting.
It looks nice until you get in motion, like you know, and then it looks kind of cheap. I'm not gonna lie, you know, it with the animation, it looks like they're missing frames. I'm like, and like I said, this is one of those things I really would like to ask the developers what they were going for here, because I'm not sure they accomplished it in terms of artistic conveyance, if only because I don't know what that is. Like, outside of that, the graphics are mostly okay. Like, the actual environments are pretty all right for a indie title. Like, you can tell this was done on a budget. Nothing wrong with that, but you know, you're not going to get a grand realized world or anything in terms of environmentals. Indeed, a lot of the conveyance is done via text. Not all of it, but a fair amount. Like, I suppose my biggest hang up with the graphics, outside of the ghosting, is the combination of 3D modeled environments and 2D hand-drawn stuff. I'll be honest, I never really liked this. I didn't like it in DuckTales Remastered. and I don't really care for it here. Like it, they don't really go together. In terms of, you know, but maybe they're supposed to look out of place. I don't know. Um, Artistically, the I will say the people do match up with the environments. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that is to say, everything here has a, you can see it. It's kind of Middle Eastern theme, like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, certainly nothing west of the Middle East.
yeah. It's like, honestly, it reminds me a lot of City of Brass. You know, that had that a similar kind of art style.
Hmm.
You know, it's like, basically, I feel like uh, Aaliyah is on a quest to find um, Alibaba and the 40 Thieves.
Only with more space boats.
Yes.
Which the space travel in this is very interesting, and you actually have significantly more like control over it than I expected.
Mm-hmm.
Like you do actually have to like steer and stuff.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's another thing. You actually have to play as an archaeologist, and you are given several sites to find, and you have to actually find them.
Hmm.
Like, you have to coordinate via like a vicinity, and then you have to look for, there's like usually several choices, and if you get a ruin that isn't that place, it'll probably point you in the direction of that, or you've eliminated a choice. And that's another thing. Like, when it comes to the major archaeological sites, you find them via getting various objects that coordinate towards that place. And
Mhm.
the more objects you find, the more you can triangulate. Um, Also worth noting, and this isn't something that was in the very initial, like the 1.0 version of this, but got added a little bit later, is there is a fast travel system. Like, once you've explored the waterways, um, you'll be able to do fast travel, which is
Which is good because you don't always want to. Although you can't let yourself forget that you can still go manually to.
mhm,
Mhm.
if you so choose.
Hmm.
And the controls are fairly simple. You use the right and left bumpers on an Xbox controller to move left and right. And obviously you move across the plane with the analog stick, and you can dive with, you can move a bit faster with the A button. Nothing too complex, although you do have to pay attention to, like right here, like which way the arrow is pointing, because
When there's a turn, you have to take the right turn.
If you miss it, you can reset. So, you know, traveling is pretty painless. And it's probably got the best music track in the game. Speaking of which, the soundtrack is very violin-y.
Hmm.
Like,
It's kind of loud. It started out being very loud for me.
Yeah.
Thankfully, you can adjust that.
Yeah, you can turn it down, and you can turn things down. You can turn down like the voices, sound effects, music, and I think the user interface noises separately.
Yeah. As
Mhm.
far as the voice acting goes, it's passable. Like, it's not great, but I've certainly heard worse. Like, and only Aaliyah speaks.
Yeah.
Once again, this is an indie title, so
In an interesting reversal of a lot of a lot of visual novel stuff, her internal monologue is voiced with actual audio, and the stuff that she says out loud is presented in text.
yes. And this is also a fairly British game.
Hmm.
You know, it's like, if seeing extra vowels in words sets you off, beware. It's like it. This game was made in Britain, so it's going to have things like color, and you know, it spells artifact wrong. But aside from that, the music and sound is really good. Not sure if I'd want to actually. I don't think I'd want to buy the soundtrack of this because there's only so much in the way of dour strings I can listen to, or that tense needling violin track that got old really fucking quickly.
Indeed.
Also, the violin will try and deafen you when you start up the game.
Yes. Let me see here. The game is available for the PlayStation 4 and the PC, which does speak to, like, in terms of ambition and scale and all that, this is like an order of magnitude above their previous efforts. Like Sorcery and Around the World in 80 Days, those were mobile titles that were eventually like brought to the PC. Here, this was made for a console, and it shows. And that factors into pricing. This game is currently clocking in at $24.99, and it's got a DLC option of the soundtrack, which is $9.99. Surprisingly, there is no bundle option. There's no combo option here. So you will have to buy these separately. Like, as far as the game itself, yes, this is definitely worth it at $25. Like, I think it would have been worth it as much as like $30, $35. Like, I mean, there is a lot of content here. It's got the scale and the gameplay to back it up. It's got all the things that I think it would require to justify that price point. As far as the soundtrack, once again, the soundtrack works well with the game, but I don't have any desire to listen to it outside of the game. Like, so overall, I'll be honest, this game is my current game of the year. Like, granted, that's not just because of the gameplay and the uniqueness of everything. This game really speaks to me in a way that a lot of games do not, because my background is in history. Granted, that's not exactly archaeology. I know that is an offshoot of anthropology, but it's still within the family, and there's a lot of history here. Like, I could feel that sense of adventure and discovery, over finding, ancient stuff. It's, the stuff that I wish I could have done in another life.
And with a linguistics background, it's really fun to muck around with the translation puzzles.
So, what about the rest of you? Where do you stand on Heaven's Vault?
I mean, it's not personally my cup of tea, but that's more, I'm into some more action-oriented games.
I enjoyed it myself. It's nice to play a more slower-paced game every now and then, and I do enjoy adventure games. And what I played of it, I was getting really interested in with each discovery and of finding more clues, getting closer to the mystery of what was going on exactly.
All right, then. I think that'll about do it for not just this review, but this review session. So, coming up on the week ahead, no Tuesday show this week, which is good because several of us have to do things that day. But coming on Wednesday, May 1st, we will be having John Fluke of Silver Dollar Games. They are the maker of the One Death... I'm trying to remember this correctly. One Finger Death Punch. series. Yes, that is an actual series now. Because the sequel, One Finger Death Punch 2, just got released. And we will be talking about that on Wednesday. Oh, until then, I wish you good gaming.